So let's go ahead and there we go. Let's go ahead and do add idea first. And to speed this up for me, I'm going to borrow some of the processes that have already been built inside of this process. So I've got this add new task value over here. And it's got this whole flow that I probably want to replicate as well as replicate this. So let's start with this. I'm going to duplicate our add page idea detail. I'm going to duplicate this for add page category detail. And I'm going to have it for edit categories because I want to be able to reorder the categories. Add page category order. So I've got 3 versions of this page. I'm borrowing style that's already been built, which is a really great thing to help me speed up, both in terms of using all Bildr templates, but also as I build my own applications, I don't have to rebuild the same stuff over and over again. This is a really great thing. So when I click add idea, I want to create that record, and I need a couple things to happen too. I want to open this page so that I can edit that idea automatically. And I also am going to need to create all of the categories that exist on my specific instance. I need to create a category relationship for every category that exists for that idea so that it'll show up, or else that wouldn't happen. So let's zoom in here to this process. So first idea, on click, I'm going to actually go borrow again that add item task flow. I might, and very likely might, end up redoing a lot of this, but I just like to have a starting point. So do I care about the status ID? I don't care about that in this case. I do need to create a record. Actually, I already know we have a new record for this. Create record. There we go. So I'm going to create my record for new idea. And it's going to go into the ideas collection, and my idea name, I'm just going to call from text new idea. And the one thing I need to do is I need to tie it to this board so that it's going to show up on this board page correctly. So I'm going to do from the current record field value from the board on the page and grab the ID right there. So I have all of that right there for the new idea. Now I will end up doing this next thing where I open a page in the container. So I'm going to open the idea detail into the, on the app header, this Lightbox right here. So we haven't done this yet, but what happens oftentimes in apps is you're going to have a Lightbox, which is like if you have a message that pops up, there's a container that opens to pop it into. And instead of having to recreate all of the actions and all the logic on that every time, when you have a single app experience, you can put all of that on one page, on one spot, especially in Bildr, and then reuse it. So we've done that where we've put all of that info on the app header. So if I go here, you can see this Lightbox, and you can see the flows of hide Lightbox and show Lightbox. And so I'm going to use that Lightbox as a pop-up to do and display these messages that I need to. So again, let's go to add new idea. Let's go into that page that we're going to open is this page right here, at page idea detail. We're going to open it into the header. And the record that we actually want to pass, the record context is just like when we have record context on a row page here, the record context that we want to open into the container with it is the record that we just created. So it's the new idea ID is going to help us key it. And so every time you create a record, we're going to spit out an ID variable value for you so that you can use that, because you'll do that frequently in flows. And you'll see here, we're going to use it a lot because we're going to create one new record and then a lot of subsequent records from there that are consequential that need to be created in relationship to the first record that was created. That's why this wait is really critical, because we need to wait to do this action until the other record has been created so that we have the ID officially created to use. So we're going to open it with a specific record, and the context is going to be from a data collection, because actually we just created it. So let's do, specific record from data collection. We're going to key the ideas. Let's get all the fields, and we just need to filter the ID from the variable that we just set here, new ID. So that'll do that. And then the final thing is we're just be running that on the app header, show the Lightbox to show it. So this opens it into the container. It's still invisible if we don't show it. And so this will actually show it on the page. Now, between these steps, and as a part of this process, we need to make sure that we're creating the relationships of the category with the idea so that we have that. And we need to get into some data transformation to be able to do this in the right way. To start here, let me go ahead and open up another page. And this page is just going to be notes. And you're going to find one of my favorite builders has an awesome set of notes that she built, like pages that are for notes. And they're just like sticky notes that she uses to keep track of stuff. But I'm going to add a few things as we build this to this page. So header 2, notes. And we're going to call actually this first section our create category, or create idea, new idea, create category idea, score relationships. And right beneath this, I'm going to put text. And I'm just going to do this to give myself notes to follow as what I'm doing here. And hopefully it's helpful, especially if you open up this project yourself later on. So what's going to happen is I create new idea, and then I need to get the list of categories for this user and create a new relationship record between those categories and the new idea. We need to retain ordering of the relationships. So the display order is the same on each row. And in this record, we know we need the ID of the idea and the ID of the category along with that order. So we need to do this for every category. And remember, we're not doing, if we were doing rigid categories, so one of the things I'm trying to build is allow you to have your own categories in this. If I was making this rigid where I was like, here's your 3 categories, I wouldn't need to worry about any additional collections. It would just be the category fields on the idea and you would rank it. But I want you to add custom categories. And this is really important because you're going to do these types of things in your apps on Bildr. It's called a many-to-many relationship, many categories, many ideas. That's why I have that middle collection. And so this is also a really important idea of creating a lot of records in actions with in relation to a subject record. Subject record in this case, again, being idea. So let's start this process. The way to do this is I need to create a JSON array of data that I can upload into that collection. That means 2 things. I need an array with an object for every record I want to create inside of it. And then I also need the name key value pairs to match up with the field IDs inside of that collection. And so remember that in our collections, we have these field IDs underneath each field. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this over to our notes. So I've got my idea, ID. I've got my category. Score I don't need to worry about. And I've got my order. All this now. So I'm going to jump over to here and just put this in note. Alrighty. So now I can just see these variable values really easily here, just make it easier on myself to use them. And again, I could switch to using these named fields. And if it's just you in a project that you know you'll never rename fields, you could do that. But if you ever rename fields and you've used the named values, that will break the process. And so instead, we like to use the field IDs if we need to refer to variables like this. So I'm going to go back now to my collection. I have these still stored in the browser address bar at the top, so I can refer to them a little bit easier. So when I create a new idea, I'm going to create the idea record first. And then I'm going to do a mass change from field in dataset action. So to get the initial dataset, I'm going to go to my actual Bildr database, my actual servers and collections, and go get the categories. I'm creating my new idea, so I need to go get the list of categories I have. We're going to flip this. When we create a new category, we're going to flip it and go get all the ideas. So, but instead, again, to create this relationship, I need to go get my categories. I need to get two things from my category. I need to get the ID of the category, as we know. And because I need an order on my list here, that's also the same order on my categories that I can use as a reference later on. I also am going to go ahead and get I haven't even added order to categories yet. So I need to add order to categories because it's going to be like it's going to be my reference. If I ever update it, it's going to be my reference to get this. So let me go to my categories collection, categories, new field, order, number. So I will have the order saved in two spots for two different purposes, but on my category, it's kind of my source of truth on order that I use to update the other one. So add field, add get order, and let me check add. Yeah, we have an action somewhere in here that is like add a value to an array of records. Just to make it easier on me, I'm going to give this just a random ghost category that I'm going to change the value. So what's going to happen again is my ID here is going to be the IDs of my categories, but I need to change the ID field name to that variable value of the field it needs to match with. Order, I need to keep order the value, but I need to rename order to that field value. And then on category name, I'm going to need to change both the name and the value, and I'm going to be changing it to the ID of the new idea. So this action is good to start with because it lets me do one of those steps immediately. So the field I want to modify in this case is going to be, let's just say category name. And for me to identify this field, I also need to go get the category name from categories. So let's go to data collections, categories, category name. So the field to modify is this. This is the category name. The new value I'm going to give it is from a variable of new ID. So now that need to show up here. So now every single record I pull out is going to have this in the order slot. And we're going to name this not categories, relationships. So I got that right there. And I'm going to name and rename and reuse this variable as I transform this data over and over here. So I can also put this at the end so that this all happens simultaneously. And then the user gets to just do things right away. It will be a really small, like literally 100 millisecond difference, but there's no reason not to order it the right way. So we're going to do mass change field and data set. Excellent. So that's our start. So we've done one change, but we know we need to, now let's change the ID. I want to mass change what do I want to do? The value There's a specific action called there we go. There's a specific action called change JSON object property name. So the object property name, like ID is the name of that field. And I want to just change ID in this case to, first I'm going to pull from the variable in the current page relationships to create with a wait. It guarantees that this variable has been fully set every step along the way. So I'm going to have 4 or 5 actions in a row that are just data transformation. And this is how you will typically go about if you're doing mass data transformation, like over large data sets, you're probably going to be refining it in this way. So I'm going to pull that data from the variable. The property name change is ID. The new property name I want to give it is the value that I pulled from the relationship field. And the variable name for output, again, is just going to be relationships to create. So I have created that now. Next, I would like to change the name of the category name. So I've changed the values of the category name to the new ID, but I need to change the field name too. So I'm going to grab that field to modify. I am going to do the same action, but the property name to change is going to be that field. And I need to put it in the field that's tied to the idea, which we know is right there. And so now I've done that. Again, it's putting back into the relationships to create. And the last thing I need to do is I have, in this case, done both of these actions and here. I have renamed ID to the appropriate one. I need to simply keep the order values that are there, but I need to rechange the order. So I do need to do a change JSON object property again, put a wait there. And what I need to do is I need to change the order value from the categories collection where I pulled this data originally. So the value, the property name to change is this. I'm changing it to the targeted spot I want that order to end up in, right there, and outputting it to the variable. So now this transformation process has given me an array, every single category, array of data. Think of this as just a mini database where there's a value for every single relationship I need to create with all the appropriate data. And so the last thing I'm going to do is the create records action. And we're going to have a mass create record action in the future. But you can use this again for bulk uploads too. This is also how, if you're doing a CSV upload anytime, you would upload the CSV, change it to a JSON format, and then add it here. So I've got my data collection, and I'm going to target the relationship collection. And instead of using JSON object for the whole field mappings, I'm going to do from a variable, from that relationships to create variable. And because I have matched the field values to the values of the fields in this collection, it's going to automatically map it appropriately. And I am realizing there's actually one thing I didn't do, which is I need to add an ID value of 0 to this category to be able to have it create the records. And so I need to, so I pulled ID has become the ID for the category field. Order has become just renamed because I need the order. Category name has been renamed and given new values for the idea. I actually need to pull a 4th data point. So we'll just pull category description. And let's go here. Category description has this field ID. So I'm going to clone this. So still that value. So the property name to change is that from the category. And I'm actually going to just change it to the new property name of ID. So it is ID. It's going to, and we're going to give it a value of 0. So which tells that bulk create records action to create all of the records. And so the last thing I need to do is do a mass change field and data. So similar action here, but I'm not pulling from a data collection for the beginning. I'm doing it from variable, from our relationships to create variable. The field to modify is ID because I just renamed it to ID, and the new value is 0 for every record there. And again, we're going to put it right into the name right here. So now this will appropriately create a relationship record for the brand new idea for every category that I have. So it feels like a lot, but once you build this once, it's going to do this for all your mass data changes. And this, again, this data transformation process is something that you're going to do frequently as you're manipulating data in various ways. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and start by cloning this app new idea to do app new category. And I'm basically just going to swap out what's happening here. In this case, for the new category relationships that I have to create, or rather, so for the idea side. So when I create a new category, I need to look at all the ideas that I need to create something for. So step 1 in new category is create a new category. And I am going to just call new categories category. And let me switch this off. Mistake. Let me just delete this. Bildr record. Oop. There we go. And this create record, again, is going to, I just created new categories. So that's what I want to do. So category name is going to be from text. New category. It's category name, the category. And then I don't believe I need to, actually, the one thing I want to do, I need to make sure that I give it a location of order, because I'm going to be using that order for display frequently. Here, you'll see I'll create a little bit of an option for us to reorganize the category order. So I do need to update the order. How do I update the order though, if I don't know at this moment how many categories there are? Well, we're going to always have our categories. You'll see as we go through this process, they'll have a value from an array index when we reorder a repeating list. Basically, it's just the order that it's going to use. In a way that I can always guarantee that I'm going to put this at the bottom of the category list, so right at the end, is using a couple of different functions that we have. And so what I'm going to do first, actually, before I create this record, I'm going to set a variable right at the top of this flow, and there's going to be a wait for this record. So this will already be done. The variable will be number of categories, and the value is going to be from a data collection of categories. And we don't need anything more than just a field that we can use here. So I don't care. I'm just going to get the smallest amount of data that I can request in this, in case it does have to get it from an API call just to keep it fast. I don't need to filter it again because the user logged in will already have this filtered based off our data collection relationships. Let me just verify that randomly here. So owner creator only. So when I do this, it's only going to be able to count the ones for this user. So it's going to give me the number of categories that I want here or it's going to give me all the categories here by doing this action. And then when I create this and I want to give it a new order field, by using a advanced process called math, I'm going to, from the variable number of categories, I'm just going to, actually, I need to add one thing. So it's fine though. This is what I'm going to do at first, or rather as the last step is going to be counting, is going to basically be looking at this value in this variable and adding 1 to it. What I forgot to do is I need to, let's clone that set variable, put it right underneath this one with a weight. So we're going to say this categories array. This value is going to set the variable, reset the variable for number of categories, and it's going to do it from itself, but it's going to reset it with a function called, or a path called length. Length is simply says how many objects are in this array. So we're going to see, we're going to show up with all the number of objects that exist there. And we're going to just add 1 to that variable whenever we're doing order. So it's always going to be the latest in the order, because our orders are always going to be the total number that's there, or it's actually going to be start with 0. So it'd actually be 1 less than the total number. But I could do, this is going to be fine. And adding 1 will keep it always at the end with no conflict. So we've created our category here, and I don't believe there's anything else that we need to create when we create the category. We could create like a dummy initial description, but we've taken care of all the important stuff. So we're going to call this the new category ID. So we've got that new category ID saved there. And I'm going to create the app page category detail. I'm going to open it into the app page header. I'm going to get it from the data collection categories, get all fields, and I'm going to filter ID by the variable that we just got in the previous. So we've got that right there. And I'm going to run the action to show the lightbox on the app header. So we'll see our detail page created. We're going to need to update this in the end of this, but we'll be able to do that very easily after we have the process of opening them here. So we now need to create the relationship records in the opposite way, right? So we first started with ideas. We went and got all the categories. Now we're creating categories. So we need to go get all the ideas. So mass change field and data set, I'm going to go to the ideas. And the one important thing I know is when I create, I want to do it for all ideas, regardless of what board it's on. So you're going to be able to have multiple boards, but I want to use the same categories across all boards. We could relate categories to boards specifically instead if we want, but in this case, we're just going to let you have the same category on all your different boards. And it would be easy to amend that by changing the relationship of category from just a global user to just identifying it on the board level too. So we're going to get all fields for actually, we don't need all of our fields. We need the ID from the ideas. It's actually all that we need from the ideas, but because we need 4 total values when we create this, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we still go ahead and pull 4 values to change. And so I'm going to say idea score, idea name, idea description. So we've got our ideas. These are going to all be replaced and renamed. This is just going to be renamed, and then we'll be able to create our record. So the first thing I want to do in this process is, let's just do the first change. We're going to call the idea score. We're going to call the idea score, in this case, the field. Idea score category relationship. We're going to do this is the spot for the spot for the category. let me do this whole process again, actually. Top. So we've got field ID for idea. Actually, we've already got. I got this top. So we are going to rename the idea score to the value of the record that we just created. So what I want to do is the new category D, mass change field, idea score. We're going to grab that field there, and the new value is going to be from new category ID. And then we're going to set it still into the relationship to create record right here. So to make sure I know what value this is. So this is our idea score. So we're going to go to our ideas, was it score? Idea score. Ideas, score. Field to modify is that one, and we've now changed the value of that field to the new category for all the different records that we have. Let's go ahead and also in the very next one, go ahead and we can do this actually. We can modify the ID name to target the specific spot we need it to go. And in this case, it's going to be the ID's value or the ideas. So the new property name is going to be the spot for our ideas to go. Next, we are going to rename the idea score. We're going to rename the value of that in the array. So we're going to do property name to change is this, and we're going to change it to the location of the field that we want variable, the new category variable to go. Next, we need to give order a home. So let's change, let's go to ideas and let's do idea description. We look, did use description, correct. Idea description. We'll just go straight down the list. So we'll do idea name instead. Get me. So we have our property name to change here. The new property name is going to be this right here. So the spot for the order to go. And we're going to do mass update value here. So the property, actually just duplicate this because we're going to end up doing this. So here we changed the order. Now we need to change this new property name to the same way that we set this value when we created the record. Actually, rather, is not from variable, it's from math. So we're going to do grab the right variable categories. So now we know these relationships, the order is always going to match the value from the category level, which is going to be important to keep in sync later on. So we have done that. We're going to set the response back into the relationships create variable. And now we have the last two actions. We're going to change our last idea category, which was idea description. Pulling in. We're going to change the property name. It changes that. We're going to change it to ID. And the final thing we're going to do is change ID to 0 on all of them. So we have now gotten our list of ideas and transformed it into a JSON object with all the value that we need to create our relationship records. So still creating a new idea score relationship from the variable current page relationships to create. So all of that's going to be the same process right there.